Morning. It's Monday, February 28th, and things are not going too well in the war, in Putin's war in the Ukraine. He has been forced to alert the nuclear deterrent forces, and that's an indication that this fight is not what he expected. And the Ukrainians have defeated his troops in the second largest city in Ukraine, Kharkov. And so Putin is under pressure now because he has started this war and he is getting into the middle of a fight that he did not expect. And the Russian people are demonstrating against this war. He's trying to not tell them anything about it. As far as he's telling them that it's just a defensive thing and they're just surrounding the Ukraine for whatever reason, right? So he's made some statements, of course, to that effect. But the people aren't buying it. There have been demonstrations in Russia, and those people are being arrested. But the fact that he has brought nuclear into the equation is something that the U.S. and the NATO forces were trying to avoid, and that's why they didn't send troops in. In any event, the Kremlin and the state media are telling the Russians that no war or invasion is taking place, but the general public in Russia is not buying that. They aren't buying that, and they have been protesting, and in spite of the threat of mass arrests, they have been protesting. And what you have to watch for is that there are some independent publications in Russia that are reporting on Russian casualties and aggression, even though there's censorship and the government is preparing to crack down harder on its citizens. But, that's the situation that's building up in Russia, so that war is not going all that well for him. And I don't want to continue talking about that war, so I found another subject that we ought to talk about. Because of the pandemic and because of the homeless people in New York City, the subway system has come under attack by the general public because it's not safe to ride the subways anymore. And there are many homeless people who make their evenings on the subway, or maybe they stay in the platforms forever because they gotta have money to get it on and off the stations, or maybe they sneak on. I don't know how they do it, but anyhow, the New York City public system is offering deals for people to ride on the subway. They've got something called an Omni card. Now, I don't know anything about the subways. I haven't been on the subway for maybe 10 years. I don't even know. Because even when we went into the city by the railroad, we would get off at Penn Station and walk to the theater from there. So we rode the Long Island Railroad once a week for Wednesday matinees when I first retired, but we don't do that anymore. Anyhow, there's something called an Omni card, which is the equivalent of a Metro card, but it costs a few bucks more. Like it's $1 for a Metro card, but $5 for an Omni card. But if you use tap and go, which means you have a phone and you tap on the phone and it recognizes you at the turnstile and it lets you in, well, if you're using your Omni card and you pay $2.75 a trip as opposed to something like $3, right? And if you ride this Omni card for more than 12 times during a week, and a week starts like Monday morning at midnight, and it ends Sunday night at midnight, that's a whole week, 7 days. If you ride more than 12 times during those 7 days, anything over 12 is going to be free. And listen, it isn't cheap to ride the subway, because they're saying that it's $2.75 for every trip on the subway, and it's $3 or more for those people who don't have an Omni card or however they use the subway, maybe they only go, they pay as they go. So, anyhow, this is a 4-month pilot program, and the discounts would end on June 30th. But if it's successful, if they get more people to ride the subway, then they will be happy, because they've got to get people onto the public transportations. And they're doing some other things also. The platforms are not in the greatest shape, and every now and then somebody gets pushed onto the railroad tracks. So they're planning to put on platform barriers in certain places, and they're going to test them at 3 stations to see if they really work. Well, of course they would work. You can't get pushed, but they're thinking about that's important to put on barriers. And then they have visited a couple of stations to see how people are returning, and they're not returning. And apparently they're not returning. They're not returning as well as they should be, and they base that upon the situation that's been going on, and they can see that. So in any event, they've also got a homelessness plan. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, plans to remove homeless people who shelter in the subway, but that plan is off to a very slow start. For whatever reason, it's a very slow start. It's difficult. It's got to be difficult to get people off the subway. It's got to be amazingly difficult. But in any event, that's what they're going to try and do. So they put a plan in place, but that plan is off to a very slow start. And then, of course, there's transit crime. Every couple of days you have a high-profile killing on the subway, and the varied variety of attacks that go on. Some people just get beaten up, and then sometimes there's a knifing, and some people even get shot on the subway. So it's a dangerous place now, and then that might be a reason why ridership is down, because it's dangerous, not because it's expensive. But they're trying to do things to get people onto the subway. There are many people who may not return to the pre-pandemic levels. And that's a big deal, because how do you manage a system when you don't know how many people are going to ride every day? We lived on the subways. The subways were our ride to paradise. I remember as a kid, we'd stand on the corner. What are we going to do tonight? It's 8 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday. What are we going to do? Let's get on the subway and go to Times Square and see what's happening. So even though ridership is going up a little bit, it's only at about 58% of the pre-pandemic levels, and that's a lot. Pre-pandemic, 5 million people rode the trains every day. So if you're only at 58% of that, what do you got? 3 million riding? It's a big drop in revenue. Figure it out. 2 million people disappearing at a day at $3 a piece, right? That's $6 million you lose every single day. It's amazing when you try to put the numbers together how much money is at stake here. Okay? So in any event, that's all I have to say for this morning, and hope you have a wonderful day, and let's hope that the Ukrainians keep kicking the Russians' ass. Bye. See you tomorrow. Bye.